Glad to welcome you back. Still rise and shine, beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Kwabam State. And of course, this morning, a lot has been said so far in the flash news. In case you just joined us, don't forget you can catch up on all the conversations on our socials at spectrumtvlive.ng. And of course, Rise and Shine still continues as we head on to look into some of the major conversations. It has become a tradition of some sort in Nigeria that once you become an appointee of government or an elected government officials, we have that tradition of setting aside targets for the first 100 days in office. And of course, at the expiration of that 100 days in office, we begin to count the achievements that the individual, whether an appointee of government or a politician, has been able to do. Now, this practice has become some sort of a tradition within the governance space in Nigeria, and as such, we head to the nation's capital where the head of service of the Federation, Didi Watson Jack, celebrated her 100 days in office and what contribution she has been able to make as the head of service of Nigeria. Of course, there was a Thanksgiving service held to that regards, and of course, a town hall kind of engagement where the head of service spoke to some of the concerns and some of the achievement that she has made. Oh yeah, I don't know. How does it feel like every appointee of government, even when most of them don't achieve anything, they still roll out drums, gather people to celebrate what they call 100 days in office?
100 days in office. Well, like you had established, it's a culture that we have come to embrace in the conversation of public office. Whether or not people are able to achieve anything is also a benefit of doubt that we can give to them, because the first 100 days, maybe, that's about 3 months plus, they're trying to find their feet and all of that. But we have, someone that can better explain, the activities of the civil service, some of the expectations and the workings of Ndidi Wilson Jack at this time. We have Mr. Olashukbo, Bash Olashukbo joining us. Of course, he's an ACE, development consultant and also a public affairs analyst joining us this morning from Abuja. We'll be speaking to him about certain, activities happening in the country today on Rise and Shine. Good morning, Mr. Olashukbo. Good to have you on Rise and Shine.
Good morning.
All right, then. How is the city of Abuja today?
Well, where I stay in Abuja is cool, calm. I don't know about other parts of Abuja.
Okay.
But everything's fine from my area here. So far, so good.
So far, so good. All right. So we're talking about, the head of civil service this morning, who, we are all marking with her her 100 days in office since getting that particular appointment, and just trying to look into some of the things that she has brought to the table in this first 100 days and some of the promises that she is still making. But key conversation where we'd start from and then trickle down into some other activities is the fact that the federal government is even moving to investigate into Nigerians that have jackpot, that have migrated out of the country, who are civil servants but yet are still receiving salaries from the Nigerian government. As a development expert yourself, someone who goes, wide to train, what does this mean for you as an employer of labor?
Thank you very much. I think the whole thing boils down to our sense of patriotism and our sense of personal integrity as individuals. If we are patriotic citizens, I think some of the problems we have in Nigeria will have been more easily addressed. Some of them will have been minimal, and some of them wouldn't even have existed at all. But I think our sense of duty to our country, as citizens of the country, is very, very low, and it's caused to question on whether we even see ourselves as serious stakeholders in the development and sustenance of Nigeria. Anybody who is a person who has some element of personal integrity wouldn't indulge in activities that have very high potentials for actually tarnishing the image, the family name of the person, and even the institutions or organizations that we represent. But because we've been managing ourselves in a way that anything goes, it really speaks a lot. It speaks volume about how and why people also treat issues the way they are treated. For instance, there are rules guiding the employment of individuals. But then, if there are internal controls that people see that are not being properly monitored, they are not being properly implemented, and that if others have done it in the past,
Of course, we're having the conversation this morning looking into the activities of the civil service of the Federation, marking 100 days with Mrs. Esther Ndidi Wilson Jack, of course, marking 100 days. We're looking into some of her achievements and some of the key factors affecting the establishment, trying to re-establish contact with Mr. Lashbo and just get on with that particular conversation this morning. But I mean, he's establishing the fact that this is primarily a conscience thing, a matter of patriotism to the country.
Well, it is stated, it's obvious. First off, you're talking about the conscience or the consciousness or the moral strength of the individual in question. Is a matter of having the right frame of mind and having the right conscience for you as a person, first off, to know that you're no longer working for a country, you're no longer working for that institution, and yet while you're receiving salary for where you've moved to, you're still receiving salary from the other side without having, that
yes.
consciousness. Okay, welcome back. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, it's about people really being patriotic and people really knowing that what they do also impacts either negatively or positively on the lives of other persons in the country. You see, the idea of people leaving the country and still having them on the payroll in Nigeria, collecting money here, goes beyond just the salaries or the emoluments they get from the government. It also means that these are persons who have abdicated their areas of responsibility and their names are still there running as people legitimately employed by the government, which means one, the jobs they are supposed to be doing, those jobs are not being done. Number two, others who will have had the opportunity of being employed to fill in those positions are also deprived of that opportunity. And so we keep talking about unemployment and so on. I keep saying it. If we get the correct data in Nigeria of the people employed and those who are not employed, you will be surprised that things are not as bad as they appear to be. For instance, the other day we were having a conversation, and somebody was telling me that if they advertise today that the Nigeria Customs Service wants to employ people, that the number of applicants will tell you how desperate people are, how bad things are out there, that people are unemployed. But I said, no, those don't give us the actual realities on ground. If the Nigeria Customs advertises today that it wants to employ, I can tell you that 70% of those who will apply for positions there are people already gainfully employed somewhere. But because they see customs as a place where they can go and make a lot of money, somebody in civil defense, somebody in Nigeria police, even in military, somebody working in the ministries, all of them will want to move on to that. And you cannot use that as a data to say, okay, this is how bad the unemployment situation is. It also goes to tell us about people who are working in other places and yet they retain their names on the payroll in Nigeria. It is the height of impunity. It's the height of, well, you can't do anything. I can do whatever I like and get to, and they are doing it in connivance with persons who are supposed to monitor all the internal control systems. But the weaknesses in those internal control systems are also being exploited by people to really fleece the country Still, because for me, that is stealing. It's on an unpatriotic act. It also shows that they are not persons of integrity. And surprisingly, this is a country where on Sunday you see everybody rushing to the church. On Friday, you see people rushing to the mosque, people blocking roads, everybody talking about God, God, God. But you as a person, you don't have integrity. You go to church, you go to mosque, and yet you know you are collecting money illegally from government. Some of them are outside the country, some of them are even in the country, they're working in other establishments. Go to our universities, one of the issues going on there too. You have people who are supposed to be employed in one university. Some of them are even running programs outside the country, and they are not here to do the work they are supposed to do, and they keep collecting money. So it's really a very bad thing. And I think it has allowed to go too deep into the system that they really need to carry out a very special surgical operation to be able to deal with this ruthlessly and make sure that all those who are involved are dealt with under the confines of the law and they are punished as expected. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Baj, you've highlighted some of the deep institutional concerns that Nigerians have been asking. People who travel out of the country, they're earning outside the country, but are still collecting salaries. They cannot do this on their own because obviously they are outside and they have to, work with some persons in Nigeria within these ministries and agencies of government to still be able to, get salaries. We see that one of the key things that, the new head of service, Didi Wilson Jack, has prided herself to have been able to achieve is the promotion and, of course, the recognition of over 332 directors that she said, and I like to quote her, she said, the promotion of these 332 directors and their recognition is the beginning of a more challenging and fulfilling part where their influence and impact will shape the future of the Nigeria Civil Service. Indirectly, what some persons have inferred by this statement is that she is posing the blame of ghost workers, the blame of people studying abroad or going abroad for greener pastures and still be able to reap from Nigeria in terms of salary to the era of previous administration before she came on board. Now, let's look at her personality and what she's standing for. Do you see a possibility of a Didi Wilson Jack being able to weed out those people who have jackpot out of the country but are still collecting salaries, prosecute them in line with extant laws, and of course also their collaborators within the Nigerian government?
I think it's a matter of having the political will to be able to do it. We've had people who have come into offices who have been given appointments, who have got promoted by the process of career progression to hold strategic positions, and then when they get there, they come out spitting fire and brimstone that I will do this, I will do that. But I think sometimes they also get overwhelmed by the system and what they find on ground there, to the extent that people at so a lot of people in Nigeria have given up on some of these things. That the problem has become so endemic that these are bad behaviors, these are bad practices that have been practiced over time that have always become the norms in our system. So time shall tell whatever the head of service will be able to do, but let's also not just focus on those who are outside the country. Even within the country, there are a lot of persons, there are individuals who do not even know the road to the offices they are supposed to be working. And yet at the end of the month, their accounts are credited with salaries. And like I said, these things are done in connection with helping people who are within the system. People who also agree, okay, bring the names, we regularize everything, but every month when this salary is paid, we take 50% and 50% will come to us.
True.
And sometimes the government also behaves in a way. The government cannot claim ignorance of this thing. These people in power can claim ignorance of it. But at the end of the day, the reality of Nigeria might just punished for the madness and stupidity and unpatriotic conduct of individuals. For instance, the issue of the fuel subsidy we are discussing today that has put everybody on the brink of going to the grave now in Nigeria. When you look at it very well, they keep saying that, look, the reality is that fuel subsidy is not something bad. It's a way of alleviating the suffering of the people. It's a way of making life easy for the people. And so you cannot blame government for having such subsidy in place. But over time, when people have seen it as an opportunity to enrich themselves and their families directly from this, and nothing is being done about it, and the government will tell you, when you ask those people in power, that the cabal, that's what they call them, those who are reaping from this are so powerful to the extent that today the government cannot get hold of them, punish them, take them to court, deal with them, recover what they have stolen, and then send the signal to others that if we do it, we will do the same thing. Rather, what they have done is that, well, it's like they are so powerful, we can't do with them. Let's just leave them, and then let's remove fuel subsidy. And you see where it has brought all of us now. You are a Nigerian, we are all Nigerians, we see what is happening. Just with the removal of that stress subsidy and one or two other policies of the government, look at how everybody is crying now, things have become so bad, and so on. So I think it is the accumulation, the cumulative effect of all these issues of lack of internal control or lack of or the weaknesses of the internal control to checkmate some of these things, and that of the political will to deal with them that has put us in this situation. I wish Madam the head of service good luck. Whatever she's able to do, we will celebrate her if she's able to do it. But I must tell you, as a Nigerian and as somebody who moves around and I meet with people almost on a daily basis, 3 weeks ago I was in Katsina. I was working with people, they had met with the people. Last week I was in Enugu State. I also met with people, the media, and a lot of people, and I get their opinions about these things. And I think, look, people's confidence in leadership and governance in Nigeria is at the lowest level. Let's not deceive ourselves. So if anybody is promising to do something, people will just say, let's stand aloof and watch and let's see how far the person can go. That's the reality. We all want the best. We hope those who are there will succeed. But we also pray that midway, what has swallowed the others in the past, we also not consume them, and they also come back like lame dogs to start giving excuses that are unacceptable and will not really solve the problems that Nigerians are looking forward to them to solve by the virtue of the positions and the powers they hold.
Okay, so let's look at upgrading the civil service of the nation, as it were. Several administrations have come and gone, and we see that the workspace is gradually developing into a tech hybrid. So everything needs to be done on the internet space for swiftness, accountability, even to cut down on some of these issues where you see that the person is no longer working but is earning to a very large extent. If we upgrade operations of the of the civil service onto the internet of things, just maybe a lot of these will naturally be cut back when I don't have to sign from table to table. Now, Ndidi Wilson Jackson is saying that about 4 key things that she's introducing. Service-wise GPT, which is an AI-driven assistant to enhance decision-making and efficiency among the people. We also have a secure mail platform for all official communication within the civil service. We also have what she calls the Nigeria Federal Civil Service Online Academy, responsible for skill development among civil servants. Now, these are some of the initiatives that the head of service wants to implement and include in the operational runnings of the civil service. How do you think this is going to be embraced, one, and how do you think that this is going to affect the operations and general output of the civil service?
For every policy, for every change, there are 2 major issues I want you to take note of. One, there is always the transition period. So when you put in place all these structures, you do not expect them to be the magic wand that will change the whole thing overnight. It's going to be, there will be a gestation period. It's going to take some time before we can really come out and beat our chest that finally we've gotten it right. So that's why I said all hands will need to be on deck. She needs a team that is ready to work and share her vision about what she wants to do for the civil service. That is one thing I normally look at. The gestation period, the transition period, for us to get to what we are looking for. The other one, which is also equally important, is for us to prepare our mind for those professional saboteurs who are always there. And for every system in put in place, they are looking for the weaknesses and the loophole they are going to exploit to be able to sabotage whatever you think you are doing for the collective interest. So it's not yet Uhuru. It's still very young in the day for us, very early in the day for us to start celebrating. 100 days, that's good. Yes, structures are being put in place, and let's say in another 1 year, we'll be able to come back and say, okay, thank God, and thanks to those who are in charge. Because of what has been put in place, these are the radical changes that are taking place that are visible. They are tangible things, and they are things that are sustainable. Not things that, oh, if tomorrow there is a change, everything will just disappear and get evaporated. These are things that we need to do. When you put structures in place, you must be able to sustain them. For instance, look at the IPPIS that they said they were putting in place is going to solve all the problems of all these ghost workers, of this and that. But one way or the other, some people have also succeeded in sabotaging that. Is it 100% working? Is it even 70% working? And let's not forget that our people as individuals, you and I, we also bring unnecessary sentiment into some of the things or some of these national issues. For instance, there were, I think it was on this platform we discussed it the other day when the president said that they are doing away the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs.
Yes.
Yeah, and people, prominent people in the Niger Delta started castigating the president. They started maligning him, insulting him. That why is he downgrading them, the situation in the Niger Delta? But we all agree that we are running a very bogus system in terms of the structure of our administration. There was the need for us to actually harmonize and run something that will be tighter, smaller, manageable, and more efficient. And as at the time that ministry was created, we should not forget that we were having just the Niger Delta Development Commission. So the relationship between the ministry and the commission was understandable. So today now we have 6 of such commissions. So if we insisted then that the Niger Delta Ministry must stay, then we have to create the Southwest Development Ministry, the Northwest Development Ministry. And what the government has done is to come out and say, no, all these development commissions, the 6 of them, we are now going to have a coordinating ministry. And that is why we now have that ministry. But people started, without really analyzing and understanding these things, they went to town, and these are powerful persons that are good at giving up sentiments against government, and this will really impact negatively on whatever progress we are hoping to make. Let's not forget, the president, the people in the ministries, the people in the National Assembly, they are also human beings. At the end of the day, what happens? When statements come out from powerful individuals and groups, and you start picking up the policy, because of some of these selfish interests, at the end of the day, it makes those in power to also go back and ask themselves, did we do the right thing? So it takes a lot of political will for them to say, no, we are standing by this because this is what is going to benefit Nigeria and Nigerians as a collective, and not for individuals as we often end up with. And so, where you find policies come out of, here and there, sometimes it is because of prayer from powerful people and groups, regional and tribal groups that put this pressure on government, and that's why sometimes we end up with all these policies somersaults, which is not good for the administration of our policy. Thank you.
All right then, really key, issues that you have raised, and I do hope that we can follow up. But just to wrap up this particular conversation before we get to the conversation on police reforms, which you were a facilitator at, that's a key conversation we need to have. 2 things: Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, Serap is asking that the federal government investigate certain funds that were lost, unaccounted for in 2021 all the way back. Thankfully, now this is not just a matter of Humanitarian Affairs Ministry under Dr. Betta Edu, so that issues dating back to 2021, and Serap is asking that the federal government does not allow that particular case go unaccounted for. You mentioned political will to get things done. do you think that the federal governments of the Tinubu-led administration should put their energy on that? And is there hope to recover some of the funds, including some of, the issues that were raised under Dr. Betta Edu for that particular agency?
You see, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation has become one ministry that, in fact, we don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse since its creation, because it has been immersed in a lot of controversy here and there, and it's a continuation of it that has gotten to the case of Dr. Betta Edu that you mentioned. But let's concentrate on what they are talking about in 2021. It even goes beyond that. Don't forget, it was this same ministry that said they spent billions of naira on feeding children in school during the COVID-19 lockdown. I think that is something that needs of, I don't even know the word to use, because once you try to be civil, how can you say there was a lockdown? These children were not going to school, and yet they were at home, and yet you spend money feeding them. Is it that they believe Nigerians are stupid, that people don't even reason at all? People do things with impunity. Now they are talking about 57 billion naira missing in that ministry. Do you know how much a billion naira is? But it has become such a common thing that every ministry you go to, every agency you go to, everywhere you go to, people talk of dollars in millions, naira in billions that people play around with. And my take on this is that, look, the civil society should rise up. I think the type of government you get, the type of leadership you get, depends on the type of questions you ask and how much you put. This one now you are asking if the government has the political will. If the civil society rises up, if all of us say no, we want to see how this thing happens, how it was managed, and there is prayer, the media is involved. All of us are asking these questions. And National Assembly is also put under prayer because they are there to serve us, not just to collect their millions and their 150 million SUV. They are getting those things because they are supposed to do things. So if we tell them that we want this thing investigated and we put prayer, it's not just only Sarah, all the human rights group, because like Sarah put it, this is stealing from the poor, money that is meant to alleviate poverty. You know what it means when you are talking of disaster management. People are suffering, things they did not prepare for, and you have yourself in a position of power, resources allocated for alleviating the suffering of these people. And some people carelessly wake up. I think it's the height of inhumane behavior. It is the height of unpatriotic attitude to just say because people are helpless and nobody is talking for them, you can do these things and get away. I think we ought to rise up and put pressure on the government, keep discussing this thing. Let the media, the civil society groups every day be talking more about this. Instead of having everything under the back government, there are specific people that we have to start taking up now and have people to give us answers to questions we want them to answer. 57 billion, and I know when they look closer, it's even going to be more than that. Those are the ones that the auditors report have been able to bring out. And I also ask myself a question, because I'm not too familiar with the way the Office of the Auditor General works. But this is 2024, almost moving to 2025. We are now just getting reports, Auditors General's report of 2021.
Yeah.
Like I pointed out the other day, people who stole money in Nigeria. I gave the case of the man, Atula, who was the Accountant General of the Federation, who stole billions of naira. He refunded only 3 billion, and that case was in court. And because it dragged for so long, the man has died. That seems to be the end of all the money he stole, and those he shared the money with. Now we are just getting 2021 reports in almost in 2025. Even before you set up the panel that is going to investigate, because they will still claim these are allegations. And those ones will also collect thousands and millions of naira as members of the panel to investigate this, and the time is going to take. By then we'll be coming to the end of this administration. And because all these persons involved that are going to be investigated are powerful people who also have political relevance for those who want to hold political power. That is where the political will come up. Can we go and be probing somebody that we want vote from his or her state? Can we send such a person to jail, and the people from the state or the religious group or tribal group will not stand up and say, we are waiting for you, we are not going to vote for you? Go on Twitter, go on social media, You see people from different parts of the country already threatening the president that we are waiting for you in 2027. For some of these policies, we do it, we do that. I think we are just behaving as if we are a group of unserious people in Nigeria. But I think these are issues that we take up, especially the civil society organizations, the NGOs. These are areas we need them as watchdog of the people in Libya. Put pressure on it, keep this story, keep talking it, let it be on the bouncing ball on the daily basis. And those in power will be forced to do something reasonable and realistic about it.
Really key conversations. I like the part that Mr. Lashukwa is talking about the fact that the media should continue to have put pressure on these particular conversations, holding the government accountable for this. I mean, 57 billion naira unaccounted for in 2021, like he said, post-COVID. So people are still at home. All of those activities are not happening. How can we account for? But I think a major issue which you touched on is why does it take this long for ministries, departments, and agencies to be audited? That's a problem because in allowing the auditing to forestall, a lot of this information can get lost, and so the monies also. So can we? What calls do we need to make for prompt auditing of MDAs?
I think those who are specialists, who are professionals in that field, I think that will be their area. The Council of Auditors in Nigeria, whatever agents and organization they have, I think these are some of the issues that they also need to pick up with them. Because whoever is the general of the country is also a member of that professional body.
Yeah.
These are some of the things that they have to look into. It doesn't really augur well that those who are responsible for this, by the time you check in that ministry now, one or two principal persons involved in this must have retired. I'm aware of some agencies in Nigeria that people are going on retirement, either in the Auditor General's office, in other places. Once people attain the age of 60, some of them are going. And so if they have left office 2 years after living office for 3 years, you are just calling them back to come and give account. The institutional memory you have there will be different from individual memories that they used to defend themselves. And when you play these allegations come up, you must be fair, give them fair hearing, give them the opportunity to also be seen to have been given the right platform to defend themselves. But like I said, maybe these things are being done deliberately to give soft landing to those who are the culprits, also who are the ones making us, while the poor will continue to wail and wail. And they can just sit in the confines of their rooms, the cozy, air-conditioned places they stay, and say, let them wail. They will shout for the time and go back to sleep, and nothing will happen. And that is where I think the media and the PSOs should continue to keep these issues forward for conversations and actions for, like you said, proper transparency and accountability.
Well, just to wrap this up, now, according to a 2021 annual audited report by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation in 2021 failed to account for over 54 billion naira. That's about 54,630,000 naira meant to pay monthly stipends to batch C of N-Power volunteers and non-graduate trainees between August and December of 2021. Now, the concern of the Auditor General of the Federation is that these monies were not paid directly to the beneficiaries and so may have been diverted. The Auditor General is hoping that these monies will be recovered and remitted to the Federation's treasury. Now, we're also seeing, questions of suspected perpetrators of the diversion being sanctioned in line with the financial regulations that bind us as a nation. These are serious concerns that we have. And if you multiply these kinds of misappropriation or diversion of funds across all the ministries, departments, and agencies, you will further know why we are in the kind of economic quagmire that we are. But speaking about institutional reforms and upgrade for the kind of society that we are gradually pulling into, let's get to the conversation of the police reforms. You were at the reform, what would I call it, conference in Enugu State about a week ago. Serious conversations of things that we hope can change within the Nigeria police force as we speak. But just take us through what was the basic engineering for the conference and some of the highlights of that particular convention?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that program was really anchored by Partners West Africa Nigeria, also known as Rule of Law. And it's part of the funding they are getting from the Foreign Office of UK FCDO to help reform the Nigeria police. And the major thing about the reform of the Nigeria police is that the Nigeria Police Act 2020, as we work, has a lot of new things that Nigerians should be aware of. Unfortunately, that document was signed in September 2020 by the then President, Muhammadu Buhari. But between that time and now, a lot of things have taken place that have shown that, one, even some people within the police force are not aware of the content of the Police Act 2020. Secondly, a lot of citizens across Nigeria are also not aware of the content of that police act. So, rule of law really organized this, and it's taking place in, I think it's a regional thing for each zone, the six zonal programs are being held, and I was part of the one in Enugu. And the idea was to really educate the people about the content of the Police Act. And coincidentally, if the act was signed in September, and it was in October that same year that we had NSAC. And some of the issues that led to NSAC were already part of the new act. But because people are not aware of it, and between that time and now, our investigations have revealed that people are still not aware of it. Yes, we've made some progress, but there is a need for people to know. And I will mention a few things among those things. For instance, we are all aware that the police will always tell you bail is free.
Yeah.
Which is the reality. The act says that they should not collect money from anybody if somebody is to be released on bail. The other thing is also the period for which the police can detain somebody. Under the act, the police cannot detain somebody for more than 24 hours, especially except if it is a capital offense or something that has to do with prison. And if you have to detain for more than 24 hours, you have to take the person to court. Then the court must be the one that will give the order of detention. And in most cases, when they give, they also remove the person from the custody of the police to the correctional facility. A lot of people are not aware of this. Go and check. In the cities, you may not find it because the media is there. These things will get easily escalated. But in our rural communities, the police are, with due respect, domestic terrorists, the way they deal with people, lock people up anyhow, still beat people, and these are things that professionally, there have been guidelines, there have been rules about these things that they are not supposed to do. The issue of stop and search, under which condition the police can stop and search, the issue of bail is there. There are so many things that even the use of force, when the police is allowed to use force, all these things are there. The guidelines for the use of force, and people are not aware of it. And this idea of people profiling people, if you wear dreadlock, if you have tattoo on your body, these are things that the act says patently, that people cannot be discriminated against, cannot be profiled and be seen and accused and taken as suspect just because you think they are by their look or color or their way of moving on the street, that these are some of the things that the act is saying you cannot do. But to say on such those undetected, if the people don't know their rights, how are they even going to ask for their rights? If those who are supposed to also exercise restraint in carrying out some of their activities, I'm talking of the police. I'm not talking of the very senior ones, but most of the junior police officers who interact with us on the road, on the streets, in the police station, on a daily basis. Some of them, with due respect to them, do not also have good knowledge of some of these things. I will give you an example. When I interacted with the police in one other state in the southwest last month, and some of these issues came up, and I was asking them, in what way has the act helped you in doing your work? Do you know what they told me? They said it has made their work very difficult now. And I asked why. They said because now the act is forcing them to respect the human rights of the people. And as a result, that interrogation they used to carry out, that within 20 minutes, the suspect that according to them, that they have all the circumstantial evidence pointing to the suspect as being the culprit who was actually responsible for committing the crime, that within 20 minutes in the past, they used to have their ways of doing it. These days, it takes a longer time. Because now, under the law, if you are going to interrogate, there must be video recording of the process of interrogation. The person being interrogated must have a lawyer present there while you are interrogating the person, or a member of the family of the person is there to witness it, so that you don't go about forcing people to say what they are not supposed to say. Or the statement they sign, you've seen several cases when people get to court saying that I was made to sign that statement, make that statement under duress. These are some of the changes now that are there that people don't know. And I now say, if respecting human rights, which is supposed to make life easier for everybody, why is it that you are saying that it's making your work difficult? You know what one of them told me, even though the others condemned the statement she made and said, you see, when you ask suspect questions and they are not forthcoming, there is a way you have to reset their brain and they will quickly own up to what you're asking them to own up to. And I said that is torture. Because what you call helping to reset people's brain, a suspect's brain, is a way of putting pressure, subjecting them to torture, inhuman treatment, which is a crime under the law. It's under the United Nations Charter, under the Nigerian Constitution. And yet, you people were indulging in this. They say now they are being forced, so to say, against their wish, to do away with this terrible system. And some of them are not happy with it. But that is not our interest. The issue now is that let Nigerians know the content of the Police Act, where their rights are stated clearly and must be respected. You, as a suspect, if you are arrested under the Police Act 2020, you may decide not to make a statement until your lawyer is available. And nobody can force you to make a statement. Okay. But most people don't know. Once they take you to the police station, then you start talking blah, 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 blah. And these are some of the things that will eventually be used against you. So these are some of the things. And we also had another one-day engagement with the media, because the media is also central to the implementation of the Police Act, to the dissemination of the information. And all the media practitioners organizations sent representatives to Enugu from the 5 states of the Southeast geopolitical zone to attend that one-day sensitization and interactive session. And it was really engaging. And if you go through the different platforms, there have been different reports. And please don't forget, it's not only rule of law. I also know international alert. It's also doing a lot of work on police reform. Police reform in Nigeria is an ongoing thing. And I think the reform will lead to more reform. Because some of the findings are also showing that some of the issues corrected, some of them are not being implemented. Why is this so? Or some of those issues being corrected, in correcting them, we overlook something. And so it is an engagement that is ongoing. And it's something that I think everybody should be part of it. And our police, the process of recruitment, the budgetary allocation, the management and administration of the police, even the choice of who becomes the Inspector General of the police, and all those things, they are also part of the reforms that people are advocating for. And we hope that one day we will get there.
Okay. Mr. Olusegun, I'm going to play a very short video clip, and then I'll ask you a question to that regards. It's coming from a viral clip, coming from a training in a police command somewhere in Nigeria. Let's take that video.
I must emphasize that you must not be caught in the web or caught checking people's phones or taking people to ATM machines and POS machines. You will be dealt with decisively. We're having a lecture now, and the lecture is being recorded, and we're equally going to write it down and send returns to the headquarters that you have been warned So if you do anything of such, then you have yourself to blame. I must still emphasize that you must not be caught in the web or caught checking people's phones or taking people to ATM machines and POS machines. You will be dealt with decisively. We are having a lecture now, and the lecture is being recorded, and we're equally going to write it down and send returns to the headquarters that you have been warned. So if you do anything of such, then you have yourself to blame. I must still emphasize that you must not be caught in the web or caught checking people's phones or taking people to ATM machines and POS machines. You will be dealt with decisively. We are having a lecture now, and the lecture is being recorded, and we're equally going to write it down and send returns to the headquarters that you have been warned. So if you do anything of such, then you have yourself to blame. I must still emphasize that you must not be caught in the web or caught checking people's phones or taking people to ATM machines and POS machines. You will be dealt with decisively. We are having a lecture now, and the lecture is being recorded, and we're equally going to write it down and send returns to the headquarters that you have been warned. So if you do anything of such, then you have yourself to blame. I must still emphasize that you must not be caught in the web or caught checking people's phones or taking people to ATM machines and POS machines. You will be dealt with decisively. We are having a lecture now, and the lecture is being recorded.
A lot of stakeholders will have to be involved. I think in-house, the police will have to do some soul searching and make sure and even understand that the training they seem to have been giving to some of their personnel seems to be inadequate. And that is why we always advocate for training and retraining for the officers. And please, with due respect, let me also tell you, the civil society organizations, the NGOs, who are getting support to actually carry out some of these things, they are also not sitting back. For instance, I know that some of the training that was to happen for the police on this, we discovered that if that training are taking place as scheduled for the targeted police officers, that resources and effort will have been wasted, because the category of officers up there who are supposed to be given the training, we cross-check and discover that about 70% of them will be going on retirement between now and another 18 months.
Oh.
So if you go ahead and spend money training these people, what value will you get from them when some of them are almost out of service? So we are also looking at it from another perspective on who should be the targeted group within the police force. Secondly, I think one of the things we can also do is that for the Police Community Relations Committee, I think that committee is being left alone to just see itself as more or less an extension of the Nigeria police. I am a member, I participated in their activities as a consultant, and in recent time I switched back. I watch some of their activities. The things they ought to be doing, not at the national level, but at even the divisional level, because every divisional police station in Nigeria is supposed to have Police Community Relations Committee cell attached to it. These people should be more engaged in educating the people about their rights and what the police, their engagement with the police should be able to give them. Not they seeing themselves as a body set up to defend the position of the police, whether it is correct or not correct. Then at the community level, traditional religious leaders identify people within the community. There is nothing bad in you asking the congregants, the members of your congregation, that okay, after service today, we are bringing somebody who is going to tell you about how you can engage the police for just 30 minutes or 1 hour. You will be surprised the enthusiasm with which our people will receive this. But rather, we pay attention to other things. Those things are not seen as priority. But don't forget, as members of this congregant, we are also there when some members their children will come and say, the police just came, they took my father away, they just locked my father up, he's been there for 2 or 3 days, and so on. In some places, like I said, the police is also trying, especially in the cities, to go by the dictates of the law. But when it comes to rural communities where communication is not there, the prophecy of the people is not as high as we have in the cities, a lot of things that I can describe as terrible are still going on. And where you know your right, yes, if the police have reason to believe that they have to search your phone, it's not something they ask you to open your phone on the street. They must find a way of taking you to the police station, and it must be well, it is after taking your statement. And they must also justify the reason why you need to open your phone for them. And you may have to go to court for the court to give them the right, the power, because that is actually going into the area of infringing on your privacy. But because people don't know, and because the police take advantage that people don't know, that is why they do these things and get away with it. A lot of people don't even know now that when you get to a police station and they say you should write a statement, you can tell them I'm not writing until I get a lawyer who is going to be here and guide me. Every police station in Nigeria today is supposed to have at least the lawyer, a police officer, who is the lawyer attached to it, so that even when they are interrogating you, you will have your own lawyer, their own lawyer will be there. And so people will go directly and act according to the dictates of the law. So it's not a job we leave for the police. The training and retraining, international organizations, funding agencies, development partners are supporting us to do some of these things. But then, how far can we go? We need to also make sure that at the level of our community, and when I say community, I'm talking about even the rural community, people should be educated to be informed about these things. And that is why when people are talking of multi-level policing, it will be an advantage if eventually we get to that level and you go to the extent of state police. For now, community policing as we are practicing it is not getting us the result. Forget all the rhetorics for people, police officers who will tell you, we are practicing community policing. I don't think we are practicing it the way it should be practiced. And that is why we are still having serious challenges. There is no crime that is committed that the person committing it is just from another planet entirely. There are people within the community who have been with the community, and somebody within the community will have an idea that this is going to happen. But because the way we practice our community policing is not well structured, it's not giving us the dividends we expect from it. That is why we are still grappling with a lot of security challenges in Nigeria. So everybody, all hands should be on deck. Even in the schools now, they need to educate our children, the students, the pupils in school, about their roles as citizens of the country. They say when you see something, say something. People don't say something because of the trust that they have with the police. But I've been part of it. I've worked on different programs where we have helped community sector, community safety partnership, community groups working on security. And when this group has information and they take it as a group to the police cannot tell the person they arrest that is this group. How many people are we going to attack? But if it is an individual, when they release the suspect can go and challenge the person. But when you work as a team, as a group, as a collective, I think it's better for us than to just leave it to a particular group. The media, the civil society organizations, the non-governmental organizations, professional bodies, traditional leaders, religious leaders, youth groups, women groups, all of us have ways to play in this, and that's the way we can get to where we are supposed to get to. Like I said, the reform is an ongoing thing. More recommendations are being made. This will still go to National Assembly, and some of these reforms will still have to be incorporated to the act. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's been such a great conversation with you this morning, Mr. Bash Olashukwu. But just before I let you go, maybe in a matter of 2 minutes, David Adeleke, aka Davido, is coming under a lot of fire for getting on a US-based radio program and talking about the economic state of Nigeria and why, Nigerians in different parts of the world shouldn't consider just packing their load and coming back to Nigeria, and also talked about the fact that investors must be careful before they invest in Nigeria. There's a lot of reaction, as a result of this. What's your take, on what Davido said? Was he being unpatriotic, or he's just, being realistic about the current economic trends in the country?
Well, thank you very much. My simple response to that, and with due respect, I say it with a sense of humility. I don't waste my time discussing functional interest. That is my take.
All right then. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Marshall Lashukwu, of course, the public affairs analyst this morning, talked on really key issues from civil service to police commission and police force and reforms. Thank you very much for your time this morning on Rise and Shine. We absolutely appreciate it.
Thank you very much, too.